All right, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh.
Lord, by them, Yahushai, by Hashem, Kodash.
Dash. Double on the soul apostles and let's great milestone citation to elect brethren in this work in the truth and in sincerity. Citation to the Lord's elect, the Bakariam Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, who we call the Most High. His name means He to be, He exists. But Hashem is in the name Yahweh Shai is His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Lord and Jesus Christ. His name means He deliverer, He savior. Kodash is Spirit Holy. All right, this is by the angels that woke up on your cognitions to receive this truth, this knowledge, to your salvation. These are the powers that we serve. These are the powers that we come in the name of. Real quick, this my name is Brother Bara. There's Brother Isaiah from GMS Guyana, and also Brother Rai from GMS Trinidad. Here with a little quick kind of short documentary, kind of basically updating the Akia moment going on in the region, which is well, I'll just play the video and we'll come in after that, right? So I'll go and play this quick video here and we'll come in after that.
Trump is sending troops to Venezuela to stop narco trafficking. Why don't you check this video out?
When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door.
There's the real truth, folks, from Trump himself. The U.S. just wants all that oil. I mean, just last year, the U.S. and Europe were struggling for oil resources because of the sanctions on Russia, and they went crawling back to Venezuela, loosening some of the horrific sanctions and asking them to share a bit of oil, please. Sir, could you share a bit of oil, please? I'm starving. And now they're just like, screw it. We have to double down on overthrowing their government so we can take all the oil. And this is a long-standing U.S. project. They have tried to coup Venezuela multiple times over the last 3 decades. There should be nobody in America buying into these headlines about Trump sending troops to fight the cartels and stop narco trafficking. What he's actually doing is Iraq 2.0, trying to pillage another country so that we can siphon out their oil resources.
All right. This is initially they was trying to send if I'm not mistaken was 6 ships right to the coast of Venezuela. Now what is happening what the brethren should know is that in most recent times the US has backed Guyana in a feud with Venezuela over the rights to the Essequibo River and borders, right? Asa, you can speak a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, really and truly, Venezuela was coming against them because they claiming that Essequibo, is their own, and there's where we get the majority of the oil right now. And as the guy said, rightfully, the main agenda is basically what? To get the oil. You understand? So they're back in Guyana now with the intention of what? Getting the oil. They say, well, there's the black gold. You see? So yeah, that's what's going on right now. So Venezuela actually back off from attacking or even invade Guyana because they pull back their troop and all of these things, with the support of America. So now Guyana gave them authority to dwell in the water, and I figure there's the same thing happening with Trinidad too.
Yeah. Because Prime Minister Trinidad, she underneath scrutiny because she has chosen the side outright plain of the United States, which this whole thing was pre-orchestrated a while back.
Yeah.
In the former tenure, you had the Prime Minister Keith Rowley at the time making making a part, as I say. He signed the SOFA agreement, which was well, for us who watching, we understood that it was a possibility that could have come to this. And analysts in the world were saying that, economic analysts, right, political analysts were saying that, yeah. So what happened? People ask in the comment boards, what would happen if war does break out between Trinidad and Venezuela? Would it mean that the US could come now and set up camp in Trinidad? And it was then said no. But what you see here now, it was said no by him. But then the opposition come in as the new government, and they saying yes, right? But it's all a big show. It's a show, because
Yep.
all of them are in it. You know, the scripture says is a lamb with two horns.
Yeah, can.
Understand? It's not two separate animals or two separate beasts. It's one beast with two horns. So the two
Mm-hmm.
horns rising out of one head. So one is always going to be good against evil because on the left hand side they operate underneath the same bounds as the Lord. The scripture say Sirach is what? That's Sirach to the tree. Sirach to the 3 and 10. Let me just check it here real quick. Right. Sirach to the 3 and 15. So look upon all the works of the Most High. There are two and two, one against another. Right.
Mhm.
So on the left hand, you have left hand and the right hand. Right. So they do the same things, but wrong, as to say. You know,
Yep.
Sirach 42 and 24. All things are double one against another, and he had made nothing imperfect. One thing establisheth the good or another, and who shall be filled with beholding his glory? So the elect in these last days, they understand the glory of what's going to happen. That the wicked in the rulership, they is a show being presented to the public. And if you don't know, you're gonna be caught up. If you're not aware, you're gonna be caught up. Right?
Yeah. I
So
have a precept for that.
go ahead.
Gone.
Proverbs 28:5. It says, evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. Right? And that go back to us. We understand what's going on. We the scripture says we're not ignorant to Satan's devices. It's just going back to what you're saying now. Yeah, you get it up.
Right, add something. Right.
Nah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so I'm going to read a little bit from the article here. It says senior political reporter Gail Alexander, the United States recent move to order additional ships, including a nuclear-powered attack submarine, to the southern Caribbean to address the drug cartel threats, has been condemned by Venezuela's mission to the United Nations. It says, which says the entry of a nuclear submarine to the region violates treaty, the U.S. has signed, right? It violates treaty the U.S. has signed. So okay, this my quick second. Right, it says Venezuela's mission in its compliant, yeah, to the UN cited treaties and that the Caribbean should remain a zone of peace. All CARICOM has made, right? So you had different analysts, different analysts and different people giving their views that when the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamala Persad, she jumped out herself and said, well, we just done with the US, that she should have consulted with the Caribbean. And then I can't remember who exactly I heard said it, and it was like the US going to do whatever they're going to do with or without
The consent.
the consent of Trinidad or the CARICOM, which is correct because the US operates as part of the B system, which is the military might. Going back to Revelation 16, it describes 3 unclean spirits as frogs. So we're going to get that real quick. This anybody want to read it from me, Baba Kasha?
Yeah, I'll wait here for that. Hold on. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse 13. It says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet.
Right. So the dragon represents what their wisdom to the peak on the left hand side, right? It says the beast system, the 3 unclean spirits like frogs, representing what? The 3 city states Vatican, Rome, the spiritual head, the seat of the false prophet, because what Christianity started from Roman Catholicism, Christianity and all these other religions, Islam, stem from out of there, right? Idol worship. You have the financial might coming out of London, England, and then you have the military might coming out from where the US, right? So like last certain works we would have been going through like manifest destiny. That's one of the things that they do that's one of the way that they conquer lands and take over. The scripture say that he covet fields and take them by violence. Right?
True.
Let me get that for you real quick. Michael 2:2. It said, well, started one, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And that's it. Job 9:24 say what the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Right? So they have the power to do these things. They don't need the yea or the nay. You see, because these laws and things that they institute is for the subservient, not for the rulers. Not for the rulers. So, you know, Jake Rock, Northern and Southern Kingdom walking around here thinking that they're free. You're not free. This man is going to show you you're not free. The Lord is going to show you that you're not free. Right? Because what? Even Paul said that, and Paul in his righteousness, he said what? He's a prisoner of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. The left and the right.
That's right.
Satan and Yahweh Shai have to answer to who? Yahweh. Right? You're not free. There's no such thing as free will. Right? The Lord said it from the beginning, and this is one of the glory of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. He said he declares the end of the beginning, and he gave this man over to be what? A wicked, cruel, violent murderer, right? And a thief, right? You say what? Micah 2:1. It says they practice it because it's in the power of their hands. Verse 2, they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, so that they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which he shall not remove your necks, neither shall he go haughtily, for this time is evil. So we're in an evil time. The book of Daniel 12 shows you that there's a time that it has never seen before. Right? Matthew 24 says they're going to have wars and rumors of wars. So, you know, you have people within the country, you listen to the everyday conversation. You have some people that are concerned, and you have some people that they just don't give one ass. Right? They don't care if today fall on a Wednesday. You understand? They just living their life. You have people like that, but there are people who are concerned. I was driving my manager, and he was saying, you know, you don't want to think about it, but when you think about it, it's scary, right? But that's what the scripture says. Isaiah 33 verse 6. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time and the strength of thy salvation. So the elect going to stand, endure, and overcome. Because Matthew 24 says what? They're going to have wars and rumors of wars, right? But yet the end is not nigh, right? Because there's what the main prophecy to be fulfilled, the establishment of the MOTB. Right? So we're just letting you know what's going on in the region, more or less, just like watchmen and reporters giving you the report. It says, but TNT Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Basesa has welcomed the additional U.S. forces in the region. Salakia?
Quick precept here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because this was just going into we was reading earlier how they break the treaty. So this is the book of Psalm 55, and I will read from verse 20. They say he had put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant. They say the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And the scripture said he had broken his covenant, and this is the man you're dealing with. You know, when you watch all the treaties that they themselves create, they break every single one, right? You recently saw it with the ICC, the criminal court, right? They tell the rest of countries in the criminal court that, you know what, if they hold this particular guy, you know, America would throw sanctions on them, right? And that's something they're not supposed to do. You better not read all the sudden ships on this side. That's something you're not supposed to do. But this is the guy that is dealing with a covenant breaker. When you watch the track record of Esau, and that's what the scripture says, you to never trust your enemy. You're not supposed to trust these people, right? They are known to always be, what you say, backbiters, you know, right? That way say, but that way say the words of his mouth was smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. We saw earlier earlier in the week, Trump he wanted to name over his Ministry of Defense to Ministry of War. He telling you straight out, this is what I want to do. I want war, right? So where I came.
God.
Yeah, I wanted to read a precept, but I didn't know my internet kind of getting in and out. I know y'all hearing me.
Can loud and clear.
Yeah, we can,
Right.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
going back, Sila.
We hearing you loud and clear.
Right. Now going back to the precept that you read, right? In Micah chapter 2, right? It say I just want to read it back really quick because you didn't hear me. It say, "Warn to them that devise iniquity and work it evil upon their bed. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand." When you go into the word power, it actually go back to the Alahayim. So Isa is the Alahayim on the left hand side. You understand? Because you quoted too in Job, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. So wherever these people wherever they imagine, they just do it. You understand? And there is Isa blessing. But I tell you, in I had one in Daniel. I wanted to read too. Because the way how we destroying, he thinking it is all by his own self. And that's why he prospering too. That's why all of these you said that he's wherever you say he basically he gonna just do whatever he want because he understand power. Right? Daniel chapter 8 and 24. It say, "And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully." So it looking like this man, wherever he doing, he put in his hand to do it, he prospering is because what the Most High is with him. You understand? But the Lord is going to disappoint him. You understand? As soon as he meet the limit, you understand? And all these things is actually to bring in the MOTB. You understand? Because you see what's going on in Trinidad. Even down here now in the election, Akim, they're talking every one of the candidates, the presidents, they're talking about we're gonna get a better pay system, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And they're bragging about America, America, America. They're putting their trust in America so much. It is not funny. You understand? Everything they talk about down here is America. Trump is backing us, this, the, and they're boasting about it. Right now, it's a big hype to see how these ships surround Venezuela right now. It's a big hype for them. You understand? But the Lord say what? The scripture say what? Woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help. So they're about to get a backlash. Both Trinidad, Guyana, and every country that's backing them. You understand? But I just want to say that I just wanted to put out it.
Yappa. Right?
I can bring this one in to add to what the brother said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Psalm chapter 17, Psalm 17, verse 15. It says, "Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword." Then I found just going straight into the brother. You know? What I can say, want to explain, go ahead.
Isaiah, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's internet going on. You go ahead, Ak. You go ahead.
Yeah, I think all the internet thing, I think he hearing us like after, way after now.
Oh, yeah, like a lag.
Yeah, like a lag, yeah.
All right.
Right? When my bro.
All right. So I wanted to well, I have the article, but I wanted to because we know that this man, he doesn't practice anything new. Is the same old game plan now, right? Is the same old game plan with him, all right? This is the book of Isaiah 47 and verse 10. It says, For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none see it me. Right? It says, thy wisdom and thy knowledge it had perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. So you're coming with your might to what? To your military might, your strength, your sword, your blessing, to what? To covet and to take by violence. Right? So what we see happening there in Venezuela, right? Which Venezuela and Trinidad has to bow down. Guyana has to bow down. Guyana has oil there US based oil companies or Guyanese based oil companies that deal with the US. There are Trinidad based oil companies that deal with the US as well. They're interested in that oil, right? So let's see how they operate in previous times and see if it's similar to what we see now. And is it a possibility that this devil is going to do the same thing here in this time, right? Because what they had, the previous administration in Trinidad, the PNM government, they had something called the Dragon Field oil deal. The Dragon Field is supposed to be between the 7 miles from the North Chacachacari, northwest to mainland Venezuela, and then to the southwest, you have the Icacas is the next closest point to Venezuela, which is supposed to be 8 miles, right? So within the Dragon Field range between between the island and mainland Venezuela, they have oil. Okay, that was a deal that the PNM government was making. They was making a deal with them for oil. That was only the period of time that heavy sanctions was being put on Venezuela through the US. All right, remember they were trying to oust military. They tried to have a little coup and try to oust and set up their puppet Juan Guaido to oust Nicolas Maduro. Right, and it was unsuccessful. And the American government, they seized their bank accounts, and the British government, the English government in England, they seized their gold reserve that was being saved in the Bank of England. So these devils, they dealt with them with a forked tongue. Okay, so I just want to play this video. It says, how did the Tonkin Gulf resolution result in the escalation of the Vietnam War? Right. So instead of reading, I'll just play this short clip.
On the night of August 4th, 1964, President Johnson appeared on national television. He told the American people that 2 U.S. destroyers, the Maddox and the Turner Joy, while on patrol in the Gulf of Tonkin, had been attacked by North Vietnamese PT boats. He said neither ship had suffered any damage or any casualties. The incident, however, gave President Johnson enough cause to immediately order limited airstrikes against North Vietnam and thus escalate the war. Shortly thereafter, on August 7th, the U.S. Congress passed the Tonkin Gulf Resolution, which gave President Johnson blanket approval to continue his policies in Vietnam, and specifically allowed the President, as Commander-in-Chief, to take all necessary measures to repel any armed attack against the forces of the United States and to prevent further aggression. In essence, the Tonkin Gulf Resolution gave the President the power to make war in the absence of a congressional declaration of war.
In 1960,
it reminds me of the statement that the mother of the child said. She said, there won't be any wars unless my son, they will only have wars if my son wants it, so something of the sort, right? And we see some kind of action, because basically what President Johnson would have done was what you would now call how they say it, where it slipped my mind where it was now there. So like it's executive order. Yeah, it's an executive order. Okay, you know, he would have just have a executive order or decree.
Yeah,
yeah, and he had the right to attack with or vetoing the Congress. No sit-ins, just attack. So this is our next video, and this one longer, a little longer. It's 20 seconds.
Attacked by North Vietnamese torpedo boats on August 4th, 1964. The response when 2 American warships were attacked by North Vietnamese torpedo boats on August 4th, 1964, the response of the US government was swift and overwhelming. Bombing raids were launched, and Congress granted President Lyndon Johnson the power to deploy ground troops to Vietnam, beginning a 7-year-long deployment that would cost hundreds of thousands of lives. But in the 6 decades since the Gulf of Tonkin incident, one question has been asked repeatedly. Did it actually happen? Or did the US government make it all up? In this video, we're going to find out. By the summer of 1964, the United States' commitment to the defense of South Vietnam insurgency was substantial. Hundreds of millions of dollars of military aid was flooding in, and 15,000 US personnel were
You all hear any audio, right?
Yeah, can
You cannot.
on the ground as advised to be South Vietnamese army. Even so, President Lyndon Johnson was keen to keep a lid on the fighting there, for the simple reason that 1964 was an election year, and the new president was keen to position himself as a moderate, by contrast to his more hawkish Republican opponent, Barry Goldwater. But Johnson's administration judged this would need a careful balancing act, as they did not want to give the communist North Vietnamese any encouragement or demoralize the South by appearing to abandon them as communist attacks increased. One of their solutions was Operations Plan 34A, which called for regular raids along the North Vietnamese coast by small craft, aimed at gathering intelligence and attacking coastal facilities to maintain military pressure on the north. To keep plausible deniability, the raids would be carried out by South Vietnamese personnel, but were directed and controlled from a US naval outpost at Da Nang. These raids had begun in February and by July were increasing in scale. On the night of July 30th, a commando force mounted a major raid on a coastal radar station at Hon Mae, inflicting heavy damage. Into this situation the following day came the destroyer USS Maddox, starting its first day of a patrol along the North Vietnamese coast. Another part of the military pressure being brought to bear on North Vietnam, Maddox was deployed to conduct what was called a De Soto patrol. This consisted of electronic surveillance of North Vietnam, monitoring the position and capabilities of its radar sites and gathering any other intelligence of use. Maddox was supported in this by American signal intelligence stations at Phu Bai in South Vietnam and at San Miguel in the Philippines, where North Vietnamese signals were intercepted, decrypted, translated, and interpreted, and then fed up the chain to create a picture of what the North Vietnamese military was doing at any one time. This intelligence picture fed into the planning for the raids along the coast, but information did not pass the other way. So when Maddox approached within a few miles of Hon Mae Island on August 1st, its crew had no idea an attack had taken place there just 2 days before, and the local communist forces might be on edge. The North Vietnamese soon detected the ship on radar, and US intelligence was soon intercepting signals pointing to an attack on Maddox. At 2:24 a.m. local time on August 2nd, the station at San Miguel flashed a report headlined DRV Navy May Attack De Soto Patrol. Note that this and every signal is dated in Zulu time, otherwise known as Greenwich Mean Time. The local time in the Gulf of Tonkin was 7 hours ahead of this, known as Gulf Time. That afternoon, 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats, T-333, 336, and 339, attacked Maddox, pursuing it at high speed and launching torpedoes. Maddox fired back with its guns and vectored F-8 Crusaders from the USS Ticonderoga onto its assailants. In a sharp engagement, all 3 of the torpedo boats were damaged and driven off, while the Maddox suffered no casualties. One of the F-8s was damaged, though, and forced to turn west and land at Da Nang Airfield in South Vietnam. Meanwhile, Maddox had moved away to the south and soon reported the attack to Washington. The response there was relatively muted. The administration was keen to downplay the incident and keep a lid on tensions with the election just weeks away, so it limited itself to a strongly worded note of protest, warning North Vietnam that any further unprovoked actions would entail grave consequences.
You all can stop me at any time if you want to bring in a precept, huh? Akim?
Cannot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear me, right?
Can.
On August 3rd, Maddox was ordered to resume its patrol, this time operating with the destroyer USS Turner Joy in close company. For much of that and the following day, the two ships were shadowed by communist boats. Tensions ran high, and the crew were nervous of another attack. At 6:40 p.m. on August 4th, alarm bells started ringing. The station at Fubai sent a message warning of imminent plans of DRV naval action, possibly against DeSoto mission, detailing an intercepted attack order that ordered T-142 and T-146 to make ready for military operations, and pointed to T-333 being included, despite the damage it had suffered in the August 2nd engagement. In response to this message, at 7:30 p.m. Maddox turned to the southeast and increased speed, to put distance between it and the coast. It was a very dark night, with visibility of no more than 300 yards and poor weather closing in around the two destroyers. At 7:46 p.m., a radar contact suddenly appeared, 36 miles to the northeast, followed by two more in the same area. The course of these contacts was confusing, with the suspected torpedo boats appearing to be coalescing rather than approaching the destroyers. At 8:15 p.m., Maddox then picked up what appeared to be three aircraft approaching from the northwest. This was swiftly reported to be nearby Ticonderoga, and the carrier soon sortied aircraft to support the destroyers, which had now turned south to head directly away from the surface contacts. It took until 9 p.m. for the air cover to arrive over Maddox and Turner Joy. Lieutenant Commander James Stockdale was the closest, and at 9:17 he was vectored to investigate another radar contact to the east of the ships at much closer range. He could see nothing, though the contact persisted on Maddox's radar screen for another 10 minutes before it vanished. The respite was brief, though. At 9:34, Maddox picked up another potential threat, this time less than 5 miles away and closing. Over the next few minutes, both ships opened fire on the contact, and when it was observed to sharply turn away, they interpreted this as a torpedo launch and began to take evasive maneuvers. This began a chaotic couple of hours as the two ships were beset by radar contacts all over the place, with repeated torpedo scares forcing more radical changes of course at high speed, all the while their guns, especially on the Turner Joy, fired at anything that looked like it could be a torpedo boat. As the action developed, Captain John Herrick, in command of both ships, sent a stream of information back to Washington, reporting that the two ships were under continuous torpedo attack. These reports made it swiftly up the chain of command to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara.
Want to bring on something?
That's when you watch things each others do, right? When you scriptures say a beast more diverse than the rest of them.
Can.
When you really think, when you watch the trickery and the kind of stuff that is doing, right? When you read the scriptures, the scriptures say more diverse than the rest. What you kind of tactics each others put on, man? What you kind of stuff that is doing now, right? You understand? I bring something for you, yeah. The man, Psalms chapter 10, and I will read let me read from verse 7. Right? It says his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Right? It says he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places, though he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. That is the man he's dealing with. The scriptures talk about a tongue, under his tongue is just mischief and vanity. What you can't think people are doing, and this particular thing the brother showing on the screen is something similar to what they're doing on the borders here, right? Or looking to do on the borders here. This is the man he's dealing with. That's trickery, fraud, mischief. You understand? What? Yeah. You hear me, DJ?
Yeah, can.
Oh.
whose mind was already
Oh.
turning towards retaliation when he
Got
spoke
it.
with the president
Okay.
while the action was still ongoing.
And see as I come back
We
on
just
you.
had word by telephone from Admiral Sharp that the destroyer is under torpedo attack. I think I might get Dean Rusk and Mac Bundy and have them come over here, and we'll go over these retaliatory actions. And we ought to. Where are these torpedoes coming from? Well, we don't know. Presumably from these unidentified craft that I mentioned to you a moment ago. We thought that the unidentified craft might include one PT boat, which has torpedo capability, and two SWAT top boats, which we don't credit with torpedo capability, although they may have.
It took until after 11:30 p.m. for the radar returns around the Maddox and Turner Joy to subside. By then, more than 300 shells had been fired, and initial reports sent from the Maddox indicated that at least 21 torpedoes had been evaded from 13 different hostile boats, with 3 enemy vessels sunk. These reports reached Washington less than 2 hours later, at what was shortly after 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 hours behind the Gulf of Tonkin. The issue of what to do in response to the attack was soon under discussion, but any certainty that President Johnson had was undermined by the comments Captain Herrick had attached to his report. Maddox scored no known hits and never positively identified a boat as such. Joy fired on 13 contacts, claims positive hits 3, 1 sunk. Joy also reports no actual visual sightings. Entire action leaves many doubts. Herrick requested air reconnaissance to establish if any boats had indeed attacked his ships by looking for debris, but this wouldn't be available until daybreak, which was some hours away. This left the president and his staff in a tricky situation. If there had been an attack, then Johnson was keen to respond quickly and robustly. With one eye firmly on the election campaign, Johnson could not afford to appear weak in the face of apparent repeated communist aggression, but they were faced with contradictory and uncertain information. But at 2:33 p.m., the National Security Agency provided a translation of a signal it had picked up from the North Vietnamese Navy that was sent at 10:42 p.m. Gulf time, that it said was an after-action report from the attack on the Maddox. It mentions that 2 enemy planes were shot down, and that the communists had sacrificed 2 ships and all the rest are okay. The enemy ship could also have been damaged. This report was seized upon by McNamara as proof that the attack had taken place. Convinced, President Johnson authorized Operation Pierce Arrow, with airstrikes mounted from the carriers Ticonderoga and Constellation on North Vietnamese small boat bases and oil storage facilities. The final authorization for these strikes was transmitted at 5:27 p.m. Eastern Time, less than 6 hours after the apparent attack on Maddox and Turner Joy had ended. That evening, President Johnson made a televised address. He asserted that a second attack had taken place and that the United States had no choice but to respond robustly. After he finished speaking, the attacks rolled in. 33 North Vietnamese boats were destroyed, along with the oil facilities, for the loss of 2 U.S. aircraft. One of the pilots shot down by North Vietnamese anti-air was Lieutenant Everett Alvarez, who became the first U.S. pilot to become a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He would not be released until February 1973. President Johnson did not stop at airstrikes. He also sought to free his hand for potential action in Vietnam after the election by introducing to Congress a joint resolution to promote the maintenance of international peace and security in Southeast Asia, more commonly known as the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. The resolution referred to North Vietnam deliberately and repeatedly attacking US ships as part of a systematic campaign of aggression, and resolved to give the president huge powers to deploy any and all US armed forces to Southeast Asia. After a short debate, it passed the Senate and the House on August 7th by huge margins and was signed into law on August 10th. It was this legal authority that would underpin the next decade of an all-consuming commitment to the Vietnam War. A war that would cost the US some 60,000 dead and the Vietnamese more than 1 million. It was a legal authority taken on the back of an attack that never happened. And here's how we know. The conclusion that an attack had taken place hinged on 3 key pieces of evidence. The attack order, ordering T-142 and T-146 to make ready for military operations, the radar contacts and detected torpedoes that Maddox had experienced, and the after-action report that the NSA had produced a few hours after the end of the incident. All three of these have problems. First, the reports from the Maddox quickly had a lot of doubt around them, even from the ship's own captain. In an after-action report sent by Captain Herrick, he notes that in many cases, the apparent torpedo contacts were in fact the ship's own propeller noise reflecting off the rudders as it maneuvered at high speed. The radar contacts were confusing and intermittent throughout, and came during bad weather in a part of the world that was notorious for producing anomalous radar contacts. As well as this, the pilots of the aircraft dispatched to cover Maddox and Turner Joy did not make any sightings of enemy boats, and neither did the aircraft sent to conduct reconnaissance the following morning. Lieutenant Commander Stockdale wrote later, "No boats, no boat wakes, no ricochets off boats, no boat impacts, no torpedo wakes, nothing but Black Sea and American firepower." Prior to the August 2nd attack, the Americans had intercepted
So it's a lie.
communist signals giving detailed radar tracking information for Maddox, but there was nothing like this for August 4th, and no radio or radar signals on the communist torpedo boats involved in the supposed attack were detected by the destroyers. This would mean that if an attack had taken place, it had been carried out by boats which had managed to find the destroyers nearly 100 miles out to sea, in the dark, in poor weather, without the use of radar or any prior idea where they might be. This could be fairly described as implausible. Then there was the attack order, which was the reason the Maddox and Turner Joy believed they might be attacked in the first place. The central problem with it is that the boats mentioned never went anywhere near the Maddox that night, and the US knew it. At 9:40 p.m. on August 4th, another report had arrived from Fubai reporting that in fact T-333 was being ready to be towed to port for repair, and the other two boats were assisting in this. According to an internal article written by NSA historian Robert J. Hanyok in 2001 and released to the public in 2005, the reference to military operations in the original supposed attack order is in fact a likely mistranslation, with the Vietnamese phrase in question having an alternative meaning of a long march or movement. This created a big problem for the Americans, because if a group including these three boats hadn't carried out the attack, then who had? Having already publicly announced the attack and then bombed a nation off the back of it, the US government could hardly now turn around less than a day later and admit even to itself that they had been wrong.
Our precept is Psalms 58 and verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like a deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. Break their teeth, O power, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Lord. Because this whole thing was orchestrated and a law was written, right? That now vetoes, the president now could veto Congress and wage war. And this is what we see Trump basically doing right now in the down here in the Caribbean, right?
That's right.
Nobody could really put up a resistance, because you should have saying all the time, to spoil the house, you have to first bind the strong man. And the strong man, he come in with all his strength, you know. Because the psalmist say what? Break their teeth. The teeth represents the power. The power of a lion is what his teeth. The power of a bear, his teeth and his paws, right? But teeth represent power. So they come in with their power and also what they're blessing. As Isaac, how shall I bless them? As Isaac, with what? The sword. And by the sword shall thou live. And that's how they're doing. Right? They have a resource that they want, they're going to come for it. But they have to create a perfect picture. That's what we're seeing. Right? I remember watching Taking Wind, the Spirit Quartet, is that when the drug bust about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had some Trinidadians, about 4 Trinidadians and 1 Venezuelan. And a few, they were busted on a boat with large amounts of fuel and drugs and money, different currencies and whatnot, and arms and ammunition or ammunition. Right? Somebody on TikTok went back in time and showed that 11 days before, Kamala said, all you that want to mingle with the Vennies and say when they get caught, don't come to us. No matter how much your family go crying on you and Allen, don't come to us.
Gone.
It means to say that this whole thing was well orchestrated.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
They knew from the previous engagement, installment of government to this present, that at some point in time, or instruction was given that at some point in time we're going to make an attack on Venezuela, and we're going to use your waters, and we're going to use your island as a base. You had this operation in February there, where they had like a joint military exercise with the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, the US. I forget the name because I did a lesson on it. If I'm able to go back, I don't know if I'll catch it here now on my device. I did a lesson on it where the US came to Trinidad and they had a joint military exercise. You also had the Operation Mockingbird, right? The Operation Mockingbird. Not Mockingbird, sorry. You was bringing out the Operation Mockingbird, sorry. Right. You was bringing out the Operation Mockingbird.
Yeah, Khan.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted
Mockingbird.
Yeah, you can speak a little bit on that.
Yeah, so it's a Operation Mockingbird is an alleged large-scale program of the United States Central Intelligence Agency that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate domestic American news media organizations for propaganda purposes. And that's basically what the brother saying, how it's so well orchestrated, is that all these things that they do, they have a whole bunch of operations that are playing to want to do certain things like this. And we know they use the mass media to put out the propaganda. So it's the same way they made it look like Maduro was doing this. But remember, first, the reason why it had the big backlash is because remember, Trump put a 50 billion bounty on his head. What would you expect someone to do if they put a 50 billion bounty on their head? They would obviously bring for the armies and so forth, right? But again, Operation Mockingbird is one of the things that is used, whereas they're controlling the mass media, the news media, for propaganda purposes, and usually majority, if not most of the people that continue to fall to the propaganda on these news media platforms, right? They just believe it like if it's the truth, right?
Khan.
Yeah.
Somebody can speak in the meantime. I just looking up something real quick.
Yeah. So let's have our next one here called Operation Gideon, right? Operation Gideon of 2020. So it goes to show how this income and as the brother brought all the information in the earlier part of the video. This is just not a no come, right? So this is Operation Gideon in 2020. It's a Operation Gideon, right? Was an unsuccessful attempt by the active coalition of Venezuelan international reserve, right? So going on a little bit, they say the plan to execute from the 3rd to the 4th of May 2020 was for ex, was for Venezuelan former military personnel living in Colombia to enter country Duro and other high-level countries, right? So it goes to show how they have these operations put out,
Khan.
right? So go ahead.
Right, yeah. So I had to get it. I had to get it up on the screen there as I was speaking, right? So I have this next one for you. This Operation Trade Winds. This Operation Trade Winds that was held in 2025. This is U.S. Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago. Commander of the U.S. Southern Command Admiral Alvin Holson to visit Trinidad and Tobago for key leader engagement and Trade Winds closing ceremony. Right, so there was that Operation Trade Winds, which was held April 30th. For a little bit, for about, I think it was about 8 days. Trade Winds, Wednesday, April 30th, Trinidad and Tobago locked loaded and ready, U.S. Marines teamed up with partner nations for an intense small arms training session meant to enhance combat readiness and joint interoperability. You see, this was done when? April 30th, 2025. Then it was Wheels Up and Black Hawk helicopters airlifted troops to Tucker Valley Range. This is in Tucker Valley, is in Trinidad, up up to the northwest, if I'm not mistaken, for the next phase, right? So they had the different, yeah, they had the different trainings. Right? Trade wins. So this is all in readiness for what we see happening here now.
That's right.
Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. Let me see. Trade Winds 2025. Exercise Trade Winds is a United States Southern Command sponsored Caribbean focused multinational military exercise aimed at strengthening security cooperation and operational readiness among partner nations. So you see, so they paint it up as just a training, but it really was a training. It wasn't just a loose training, then it was a training with focus for this time. This annual event focuses on maritime security. What? Maritime security. What happening now? Maritime goes back to the ships. What happening now? Not ships sailing from America to come to the waters of Caribbean waters or the Caribbean Sea to border Venezuela, which will be in Trinidad waters, which our Prime Minister has opened to the US, like they could resist. Right? Maritime security, agency coordination, and disaster response. Let's check and see if I was asked on the screen here. All right.
Yeah, I hear you hearing me. I going in and out.
Yeah. It says this annual event in coordination response. Trade Winds 2025, the 40th iteration of the exercise will be co-led by the United States Army South and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. It says it will feature the participation of military and security forces from across the Caribbean region and beyond. This year's exercise will take place in Trinidad around Chaguaramas Peninsula, right, providing a dynamic training environment to enhance interoperability and lasting partnership. So, right.
You good there? Oh,
Just
yeah. Okay.
Right. So, Dragon Field, Oil Field, Trinidad and Tobago. Right. Let me see. LinkedIn. I wanted to get a nice little clear. I think this in here could work. Economic Untruth Sunshine today. I think this was no, this is not Jack Warner's. Nevertheless, this is Venezuela. This is Trinidad. And I think around here is the Dragon Field. Oh, I seen Dragon here. Come back here. Oh shucks. It went on the wrong I was watching the wrong thing. I was on the wrong page, right? I think the Dragon. I saw in Dragon here. All right, but let me come back here to all.
Right.
The Dragon oil field is a misnomer. It is actually the Dragon gas field as a significant natural gas reserve located in Venezuelan waters near the border with Trinidad and Tobago. It says Trinidad and Tobago National Gas Company alongside Shell holds a license to develop and export this gas to Trinidad. The project aims to secure reliable gas supply for Trinidad's energy industry as its domestic reserves decline, but it faces significant geopolitical and regulatory hurdles due to the U.S. sanctions on Venezuela. Right. So as we said, the previous administration, they would have cut a deal with them. All right.
The audio not playing now. The audio.
Okay. Yes, sir. Slack, I'll have to eject it and then bring it back. But a quick second. I have to go through the whole process again. When I, for some reason, when I going between the slides, I probably don't know how to do it properly as yet. Right? Yeah, there's after a while.
Is that we
After a while, there's kick out the audio.
have now been informed that our license from OFAC, which is dated the 18th of December 2023, has been revoked by OFAC. And that license is now revoked by OFAC, as well as our Coquina mannequin license. It came a little while after the others. What I can tell Trinidad and Tobago is I don't have more details than that. I have been in touch with our attorneys at law in Washington.
Right, so say the U.S. government makes a U-turn and revokes TNC license to conduct gas and oil business with Venezuela, right? Because they were putting the clamp down with the sanctions. This would have given Venezuela a breath, like a lifeline, right? It says Prime Minister and Energy and Energy Industries Minister Stuart Young on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. And remember what was the date of so like gosh, I can close it. The date of Operation Trade Winds was like the 8th, it was the 30th of April. So not too long after this, they would have had to have the interoperability exercise in the same month.
Same month.
Right? So on the 8th, they revoked them. It's like, no, all they're not big and bad. You know, the Prime Minister before him was they probably tell Rowley to step down. The US probably tell Rowley, you're too proud, move and put this man in place. Right? It says on the 8th, made the shocking disclosure during the press conference at Whitehall in Port of Spain. The U.S. Office Foreign Assets Control and Financial Intelligence and Enforcement Agency of the United States Treasury Department revoked TNT license to conduct oil and gas business with Venezuela with immediate effect. Last May, Long stated that TNT was already paying a portion of over $1 million US per year in taxes to Venezuela as part of the deal. He mentioned that the payment is due to Venezuela's consisted of royalties and special commissions of 5% surface tax and well, it's up there. Oh no, it didn't. And social contributions to totaling of $1 million US, along with confidential signing bonus. Last year, the then Prime Minister Keith Rowley assured the nation that the United States had confirmed to the government that TNT would not be directly affected by the US, possibly reimposing sanctions on Venezuela's energy sector. So you see, so the whole move forward on with Trinidad and Tobago as well, right? Because underneath Rowley, they said they assured the nation that the United States had confirmed it would not be directly affected by the US, possibly in reimposing sanctions on Venezuela's energy sector. And then they come and they did it, right? This came as the United States threatened to impose sanctions on Venezuela oil and gas industry over the failure to register all opposition candidates for presidential elections that year. Right? So if there's a sovereign nation, what do the US have to do with who are going on in that nation? You see? They're going back to the precept, you know. A man and his heritage. They destroy. Right? So this devil.
What piece of paper?
Go ahead.
This is the book of Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 5. It says, yea, also, because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Who enlargeneth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Right?
Minister of Energy and Energy Industries Stuart Young, responding to a question for oral answer in the upper house, assured the public that Trinidad and Tobago's position is secured when it comes to the Dragon gas field.
The April 2024 reports in respect of the sanctions imposed by the United States on Venezuela's oil and gas sector relate to General License 44. The amendment to the OFAC General License 44, which is now known as License 44A, does not affect the specific amended OFAC license that was issued to the government of Trinidad and Tobago on the 17th of October, 2023. I repeat, it does not affect our position.
The minister explained that the amended October 17th license authorizes the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, NGC, Shell plc, and affiliates to conduct business with the South American country.
The specific amended OFAC license issued to Trinidad and Tobago on the 17th of October 2023 is valid until the 31st of October 2025 and permits Shell, NGC, and contractors to continue works being undertaken to explore, produce, and export natural gas from the Venezuelan Dragon field to Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Young reminded citizens that Trinidad and Tobago secured a 30-year exploration and production license from the government of Venezuela to continue the exploration, production, and exportation of natural gas from the Dragon gas field. Ayana Carter, TTT News.
So you see, so this devil is not going to fail. He's going to do what a devil does. This is the book of Job, chapter 20. Right, Job chapter 20 and verse 10. Sorry, verse 12. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue, right? Though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth, yet his meat in his bowels is turned. It is the gall of asp within him. He had swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. God shall cast them out of his belly, because at the end of the day, this is all for his gain, for his wealth. He run his military, he takes over, he pumps the gas out. They did what they did to Iraq. Weapons of WMD. They said that the inside of Iraq had WMD. When they went inside, they didn't have that. And if you remember, Gaddafi wanted to unify the African continent, the different tribes, and have a gold standard. What they did? They unalived him, all right? And they continue to operate.
They cause an insurrection across there.
Yeah. Can. It says Job 20 and 15. He had swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. Power shall cast them out of his belly. He shall suck the poison of the ass. The viper's tongue shall slay him. He shall not see rivers. He shall not see the rivers, the floods, the brooks of honey and butter. That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. Right? All the gold, all that is going to come back onto Jacob, onto Israel, the true Israelites, because he had oppressed the poor, and forsaken the poor, because he had violently taken away an house which he builded not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly, he shall not save that which he desired. Right? all this all this that he's laboring for is going to go back across onto Israel, right? The true Israelites in that time when Yahushua come, right?
That's right.
But as we said in the beginning, Isaiah 4, chapter 47 and verse 10, right? He thinking in his heart that none see him, but he is seen, because not only the prophets see him, everybody know that he's acting from the old playbook, the old American Edomite playbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Create propaganda, right? Cast a law, or just bully their way in and just take what they want, take the resources. That's all. That's what it is. That's what it is about, right? But Ezekiel 38 will also come into play, where the Lord will stir up the spirit of the Gog and Magog and the Medes, right? And you know he's going to put a jaw in the hook, turn them back into the old military way, the old USSR, right? And these nations going to be Russia, now known as Russia, right? They're gonna be a guard onto what, onto these other lesser nations, because China and Russia back Venezuela, you know, at this present time. They back Venezuela. So this thing could escalate. It could escalate, it could de-escalate. It could just be a piece of the puzzle coming into play, you know. But one thing that we do know, this devil is going down. Right? I don't know if you have anything else, and we could close out. You have anything else up? Right? I think we lose brother Raya as well on audio. I know his internet going in and out as well. All right. Yeah. So I think we get the point across. So give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Kakodash, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, and citation to the elect, which doing this work in sincerity and in truth. Right. So this has been a little bit news in the region. Right. It was edifying, if not informative. All praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Kakodash, Shalom to the elect.